of the Finance and Audit Committee to order at 6:04 here. Roll call, please.
Member Garcia,
Here.
Vice Chair Sierra,
Here.
Chair Vanderpool,
Here.
Treasurer Patel,
Here.
Councilmember Voigt,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Fenn.
Here.
All right. Are there any actions, any requests for an excused absence?
No, sir.
Nope. Okay. Any adjustments to the agenda? Okay. Any conflict of interest disclosures? Okay. Peter, if you could lead us in the full Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure.
Cool. Thank you.
All right hand over your heart, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Are there any public comments?
I have no written requests. Candace, do we have any callers on the line?
We do not.
Okay. So that they can speak if.
We don't have any callers on the
Oh,
line.
I thought you said. I thought you said we do.
Oh, she said we do not.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, at least it wasn't just me. Okay. Like we do. Well, that's okay. Here we go. All right.
We hear things differently up here.
I know. All right. Well, in that case, we move on to our action item, which is fiscal year 2023 draft annual comprehensive financial report. So I'll have Ms. Eustachian lead us through that.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, Finance Committee members. We have this special meeting this evening because in the Beaumont Municipal Code, it states that the Finance and Audit Committee will review the draft annual comprehensive financial report. This report is our audited financial statements that are reviewed by our auditors. We have our auditors with us on Zoom tonight. Scott Mano, he's with Rams, Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott. They will be doing a presentation on the auditor's responsibility as well as their opinion on the financial statements. And then we'll hand it over to Lisa for a presentation on some of the financial highlights that are within the financial report. So we'll hand it over to Scott. Scott, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Jennifer. Sorry. Not exactly the greatest at Zoom, so.
So whoever has the technical responsibility, we can see the screen, we can see the Zoom at the bottom taskbar, but we're not seeing them on the screen.
You can't see the whole slide on the screen?
No, all we get's the desktop. Okay.
Done over there.
Because it looks like we can see the Zoom icon
Yeah.
at the bottom. Test your eyesight, huh? Okay. All right.
Well, that one.
So in the meantime, we can hear you.
Well, I'll just go through the slides. What I'm going to do is just be a high level.
Scott, we have the slides. We can go ahead and run them if you'd like.
Sure.
Let
me
see if they can do
stop
that at the same
sharing.
time.
There we are.
There we go. Perfect.
He needs to share his screen.
Do I need to share my screen then?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead, they got it to where you could share your screen and do the slides.
Okay. How about that?
There you go.
All right, let's go back to the first one. All right. Like I said, my name's Scott Mann. I'm a partner at Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott. Veronica's name's on here. She couldn't be here tonight, so I'm going to walk through the slides with you. Essentially, what I'm going to do is kind of have a little overview of what an audit is and what we actually do. during that process, and then go over the responsibilities of each party. Both parties have a responsibility, the city and the auditor. The city's responsibility is to prevent the city's financial statements and results of operations fairly and in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles. The city is required to adopt sound accounting policies, provide reasonable accounting estimates, establish and maintain internal controls, and prevent and detect fraud. The auditor's responsibility are to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of misstatements. Now, reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but obviously it's not absolute assurance. But it is a high level of assurance. We examine on a test basis evidence supporting amounts and disclosures. So if this, say the city has $10 million in a cash account, we basically say, prove it. Provide us documentation that proves that you have this $10 million in your bank account. We do that, looking at bank statements, confirming with outside parties as well. We confirm the cash with banks, or if we don't confirm it with the bank, we'll actually stand over an employee who has access to the bank account and have them log in there and show us a bank statement as of June 30, the year-end date. In addition, we are assessing the accounting principles used, any estimates made, and the overall financial statement presentation. Now, one thing I do like to stress is that we assist the city in compiling the data for the financial statements, but the financial statements are the responsibility of the city and management. There are probably 4 pages in this document that I claim, and those pages are the independent auditor's report. Pages 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's it. Everything else is the city's. In addition to that, we review the city's internal control policies and procedures. And the whole objective of the audit is to express an opinion on whether the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with GAAP. Typically, this is the audit process. Typically, we divide the audit into 2, what we call segments. One is an interim. It's internal control testing. So what we do is we update our understanding of the city, review concurrent controls over various cycles, and then we test those controls as we deem necessary. An example of that would be, say, the city requires 2 signatures on every check over $25,000. We'd pull a sample of disbursements, and any disbursement that was over $25,000. One of the steps for us to control testing steps would be for us to ensure that that check had 2 signatures on it. And then once we're done doing that, we perform risk assessment procedures, and then we do what we call the year-end field work. And that's where we actually test the numbers. Again, going back to that bank account example of saying that, you used to have $10 million, prove it. And, that's where we're actually auditing the numbers. Like I said, we'll do a sample of audit of financial records, because again, we can't test everything, which is your absolute assurance. That would be prohibitive, time consuming. So we do samples of various records, inspect relevant documentation. Again, we confirm balances, and we perform analytical procedures as well. And then once that's done, we go back and then we actually compile the financial statement data and the note disclosures with the city staff assistance. Our opinion, the financial statements, we feel they're presented in all material respects. It's an unmodified, clean opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that we can provide on a set of financial statements. Policies were consistently applied, estimates were reasonable, and disclosures were properly reflected. Other key points, we had no disagreements with management, no errors or irregularities discovered, and no significant accounting issues discovered. One thing I do want to just mention is that there was a new standard this year, GASB 96, Governmental Accounting Standards Board Statement 96, which was implemented this year. It was kind of the same as last year with leases. It's kind of the same concept. It's subscription-based IT arrangements. And any material subscription IT arrangements are now presented as a liability on the financial statements if they meet certain criteria. And with that, if there are any questions, I will be more than happy to show myself and answer them.
So I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit, and maybe staff will cover this, but I know in previous audits, there were some findings, and it would give us kind of like a homework list to work on, and then as a result, we had this committee follow through on those items. So are there findings on that, and will we hear about that shortly?
I don't believe we had any findings this year.
Okay, all right, so,
This is the second year in a row there's been no findings.
sweet. Good job, everybody.
Yeah, I agree. Congratulations to the finance department. That's fantastic. The only thing and this is just for my education, I was looking at the statements and I know I couldn't see anywhere on the actual report that it said clean opinion. I know it said somewhere on there, but is there a place that actually says clean, or is that just like the slang?
That's the slang.
Okay.
If you go to
All right.
The first page of the independent audits report, the second paragraph, it says, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. That's the clean opinion.
Okay, that's what I figured, because when I read that, that's the exact thing that I thought. I just wanted to confirm that means clean. So, okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions for Scott, I could hand it over to Lisa, and she has a presentation on some of the financial highlights in the report.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Scott.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, is it up? Not yet. You'll see it on that screen. Just make it large, like full screen, and then Ross, if you can put her screen up. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, okay.
All right, well, welcome. I want to take the opportunity before we got started by saying thank you to all of the department staff, because this was a citywide effort. It wasn't just finance department. We had the assistance from all departments, so I wanted to thank them. But I did especially want to thank the finance department for making this first priority and being very timely with the auditors. And I also wanted to thank Scott and Veronica and their team for their effort of making sure that we got this done in December again this year, because last year was our first year that we did that. This slide is very exciting because we are presenting to you for the very first time. We were notified in August this year that we had received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for our fiscal year 22 ACFR report. So this is the first time the city is receiving this, and we get to present it now within our fiscal year 23 ACFR report. This is also the third year ACFR for the city of Beaumont. And the ACFR provides a broad view of the city's financial position. There are three sections, the introductory section, the financial section, and the statistical section. The introductory section consists of the letter of transmittal, principal officers, and an organizational chart. The middle section, which is the bulk of the information, is the financial section, which includes the independent auditor's report, management's discussion and analysis, government-wide financial statements, fund financial statements, and then notes to the financial statements, which gives a little bit more explanation of the numbers that are inside the government-wide and the fund financials, and then required supplementary information, and then combining financial statements and schedules. The government-wide financial statements are more of a broad overview of the city's finances, similar to a private sector business, and it's long-term looking focus. And the activities are classified as your governmental activities and your business type activities, which consist of the sewer fund and the transit fund. So the government-wide statement of net position, you can find this on page 15 of the ACFR report. And this presentation shows the city's assets, which is what we own, and then it shows the city's liabilities, which is what we owe. So at the end of fiscal year 23, the total city assets and deferred outflows is $786,176,000. This is rounded. And then the city liabilities and deferred inflows is $247,984,000, which then gives us a net financial position of $538,192,000. This ends up being an increase from prior year of $20.5 million. On this slide, we break down for you the governmental activities versus the business activities, so you can kind of see in a nice little pie chart. So the total revenues for the governmental activities for fiscal year 23 is $60.5 million, and then the total expenses are $24.3 million. For the business type activities, the total revenue was $7.4 million, and the expenses were, as you can see, it's very large, $23 million, and this is basically due to the disposal of the wastewater capital assets due to the expansion. So not all of it was fully depreciated, so you take a little bit of a loss when you dispose of those assets. So that's what that's displaying. I thought I'd stop and see if anybody had any questions at this point in time. There's a lot of numbers here.
Could you give an example of one of the other type of business activities that might be listed on there to get a general better idea?
For the transit's in there and sewer. So those are the
Oh,
only
just
two
those
that
two.
we have.
Okay,
Mhm.
gotcha. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so next is the fund financial statements. And the fund financials are used to control resources that have been segregated for specific activities or objectives. They have a near-term focus. And then all funds are categorized into three broad categories. So you can see there's governmental funds, which are activities related to serving the public. There's proprietary funds, which are activities with an objective to recover costs through user charges, which would be like the sewer charges. And then there's fiduciary funds, which are financial resources held for others as trustee. Oops, sorry, went too fast. So the general fund operating results can be found on page 23 of the ACFR. And for fiscal year 23, the revenues are at $63.9 million, which is an increase of $12.75 million from the prior year. And then you can see the expenditures are at $44.6 million, which is an increase of $7 million from the prior year. And overall, we had a general fund decrease of $3.8 million because we had transfers out for capital projects that we had planned to spend down this year. So how did fiscal year 2023 results compare to our planned budget? Our total revenues came in this year over budget by $5.6 million. Our expenditures came in below budget by roughly $5 million. We can round up to $5 million. We had other funding sources and uses that are over budget by 1.1 million. So we had an overall budget savings of 11.7 million. We had initially planned to spend down 15.6 million, but because we had the budget savings, it ended up only being the 3.9 million. Did anybody have any questions at this point in time?
Can you go back to that slide really quick? On planned spend down, can you, I'm assuming those are planned projects or CIP
Correct.
potentially. So we had planned to spend 15, but only spent 3.9. Is that what you're saying? Or
Well, we had planned to spend down an additional 5.6 million of the fund balance, but because we made it up on the revenue and we saved in the cost savings.
okay,
Yeah, we ended up only spending down 3.8.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested in looking at these, looking at the projections here versus what actually happened. So total revenues were over budget by about 5 million. What was the actual, so what was the size of the actual budget? Do we know?
Well, if you go back a slide, you have, oh, you only have
It
the actuals
was-
on there, huh? There,
This one?
Okay,
yeah.
so it'd be, okay,
But that was
somewhere
the
around
actual revenues that
That's
came
the
in.
actual, yeah, we don't
63,
have
so
the budget
5,
number.
okay. Okay,
50s.
cool. That's it. I just kind of wondered, I was interested as a percentage, what it would be. Okay, cool, thank you.
So then what we thought we would share with you is, at the end of the year, you end up with a fund balance, which our fund balance ended up being 41.7 million. But there's categories to your fund balances. So you have non-spendable items, which are items that cannot be spent because they are not in a spendable form. You also have restricted items, which is a portion of net fund resources subject to externally enforceable legal restrictions. This one happens to be our Pension 115 Trust. Then you have committed, which is the portion of net fund resources constrained by limitations imposed by formal action of City Council. And then you have assigned, which is a portion of net fund balance reflecting government's intended use of resources. So you end up finally with unassigned. And so here demonstrates the total, out of the total ending fund balance of 41.7 million, we have 30.47 million categorized as unassigned. But from there, we must apply the city's general fund reserve policy, which is 16% of the annual operating budget reserved for working cash flow, 5 million reserved for budget stabilization, and 1 million reserved for emergency disaster. So when we calculated the 16%, we came up with a working cash flow of 10.85 million, add in the budget stabilization of 5, the emergency reserve of 1, so we have a total reserve of 16.85, which then reduces that original 30.7 to available fund balance of 13.62. And then at the very end of the ACFR, you will find the last section is our statistical section, which provides financial trends, revenue capacity, debt capacity, demographic and economic information, and operating information. And that is all we have for you on the presentation this evening. So we're here to answer any more questions you may have.
Could you go back one slide? I missed the last figure.
Yes.
So the 13.6, okay. And so that is unassigned funds that the city council could designate where they go.
Correct.
All right,
Yeah.
which sounds familiar, what was reported in the last meeting or two.
Yes.
Thanks.
Alrighty, are there any more questions? All right, so what was the action we were supposed to?
I do have a question real
Oh,
quick.
yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Shoot.
On the total reserves, is that just what the city requires?
Yes, it's policy. The council's decided that this is what we want to set aside as reserves, and they've done a pretty good job of showing we want working capital, we want budget stabilization, we want emergency fund. So that has been, decided by council.
I believe it was 20%, wasn't it? Did we take it down last year?
We took it down, it used to be 25, we took it down to 16% for the working cash flow, and that's when we added in the budget stabilization and the emergency disaster.
One question that I had, and I apologize for not asking it sooner. I saw earlier when it was stating for our tax revenue that came in, what are the taxes comprised of? Is it just homeowners or is it businesses as well?
It's property taxes, it's sales taxes, it's transient occupant tax, utility users taxes, that's the majority of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just a follow-up question to that, thank you, is that when we are inviting businesses such as Amazon and other large corporations, do they get a tax break for doing business within our city?
No, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
no.
So I guess my quick question, and this is just,
Excellent.
so, we're off, so I'm just trying to figure out the projection versus what, so we're over 5 million of a 60 million budget in terms of the projection. Is that within the general margin of error with a projection? I'm just curious.
It's been historically around there.
Okay.
We've had recent increases in our taxes category, and so
Right.
we'll get that dialed in a little bit more
Okay.
since this has fairly been like the second year that we've had that increase.
Okay.
So it'll start to stabilize. I think you'll see that in the future.
Sounds good. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to know, that, just for the accuracy of our projections and all that kind of good stuff, so.
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
Is the largest portion of that increase, is it due to an increase in sales tax or an increase in property tax?
It was sales tax and also earnings from investments, but the majority of the taxes was on your sales tax.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions?
I think there was only one comment, which I had spoken with you earlier, was just moving, the fire station was underneath Public Works, and maybe next time we go through it, putting that in public safety. But I don't know if the majority of the funds come out of CIP or if they came out of the service diff, the public service. I don't know if diff's the right word either.
So it's in the capital projects fund. That's where
Yeah.
you'll see all the expenses for that. And it's listed under Public Works currently because it's one of their projects that they're working on. And then when the fire station is completed, then the next year's ACFR, you'll see it highlighted in the public safety portion.
Perfect.
All right, are there any more questions? Do we have any public comments?
I have no written comments. Candace, do we have any callers on the line?
No callers.
Okay, great. Then I guess the recommended action is to receive and file. Do we have to hold a vote for that?
In addition to receive and file, it's to recommend forwarding to city council. for
Oh,
approval.
okay, recommend forwarding. So do we need a vote for recommending forwarding?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so just to let you know real quick that there is one last quality review that this report goes through. So
Okay.
they do one more check, and then they have to get some more confirmations, very last minute confirmations before they actually publish the report. So that will go through. As long as there's no substantive changes to that, then the recommendation would be that it would be moved forward to city council in the final form.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask that next, since then the 196 pages where it was draft subject to change will be
Yes.
removed.
Right, yes. Yes.
All right, fantastic. All right, then I guess if anybody doesn't have any issues, we could probably vote on the, vote.
I could do it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to recommend that, I'll make a motion for the Finance and Audit Committee to receive and file the fiscal year 2023 annual comprehensive report and recommend forwarding to City Council for approval.
I'll second.
Member Garcia,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sierra,
Yes.
Chair Vanderpool,
Yes.
Treasurer Patel,
Yes.
Councilmember Voigt,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Finn.
Yes.
I did want to mention, I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for this report. I thought it was very well laid out. Our questions were completely answered as I was going through it. And I really appreciated the attention to detail and breaking it down, but also the 10-year look backs. You can really see the growth in a lot of those. And so I think that that really kind of laid it out very well. And especially as kind of a new council member, it gives a lot of speaking points. So I really wanted to just say thank you guys for that because I thought it was very well put together.
Yeah, I want to second that. Great report. Congratulations on the clean opinion. Good job.
Thank you.
And it's a nice place to be in, right? For the city.
Yes, I agree. Yes, it is a good place to
Mayor
be.
Pro Tem, isn't it, as you're moving in?
I'm going to be handed over a well-oiled machine and don't mess it up.
All right, so with that, it looks like we have a staff report. Are we doing that?
Yeah, I think we're on treasurer.
Okay, so we're on treasurer review. Okay, so treasurer review and comments.
We're good here.
We're good here? Okay, finance director comments.
The only thing I have to add is that there was a discussion with City Council on the RFP subcommittee, and it was decided that that subcommittee was no longer needed. So I wanted to let the Finance and Audit Committee know that
Oh,
that was a
okay.
decision that was made.
All right.
And then I have a question. When do we expect for our committee to meet again? Was it, that's the January 22nd? No, that's old.
It would be at the January meeting.
Okay, and then back on to our quarterly review?
Yes, I will add that there is an item that will be going to council for budget. We might have some special meetings that will be required within the budget process, but that will be decided by council when they see that timeline.
Okay.
All right, then I guess we can adjourn at 6:36. Thank you so very much. Yes, well done. Good job, girls.